the Rehabilitation Project Force. In 1978, after all the years she'd given to Scientology, Hannah Eltringham Whitfield was consigned to the RPF by L. Ron Hubbard for performing badly in a session on Scientology's controversial counseling tool, the E-meter.
I was led there forcibly by two huge men and confined, locked up in a room with no windows for 2 days and 2 nights, during which time I almost went out of my mind. They do that as a sort of a chilling out period.
One of Laura de Crescenzo's first jobs in the Sea Org was to send fellow members of the Sea Org to the RPF. She was 12 years old at the time. Later, she herself was sent there. So Laura, how does it feel coming back here?
It makes me sick to my stomach. It's kind of nerve-wracking to come to the building. I mean, this is where I was trapped for 3 years. The last 3 years that I was in the Sea Org, I was segregated from everybody in the RPF.
So where is the RPF? Point it out to me.
Right in that area, right there. The second floor is where their berthing is.
How many people sleep in these dormitories?
It varies depending on the size of the room, but there were some that actually had up to 40 people in it.
In Australia too, the RPF plays a significant part in the Sea Org regime. Peter O'Brien abandoned Scientology last year. In 1997, she says, she was consigned to the RPF here at Dundas, outside Sydney.
You are allowed to study for 5 hours, and then the rest of it is cleaning and heavy work, heavy labour. Remember, we're already heavily indoctrinated when we're working in a Sea Org, so when they give you a pick and a mallet and tell you to go and break rocks, you do it, and you run everywhere.
It sounds very harsh.
Very harsh.
Am I right that within the RPF there's a further RPF?
It's called the RPF's RPF, yes.
What is that?
That is the lowest of the low, as far as not even the other RPFers are allowed to speak to you, as in the communication is cut.
Joe Reish was never sent to the RPF, but saw it in operation.
To me, it's a slave camp, there's no question about it, because people are definitely abused. They're stripped of any rights as an individual. They're not allowed to talk to public individuals. They have to run from one station to another. No walking, no slow pace, it's movement. What it really is a breakdown of the spirit.
The Rehabilitation Project Force is a program within the Church's religious order whereby Sea Org members who burn out on their jobs or are failing or incapable of or not performing well in their functions can be given the voluntary opportunity to have a period of reflection, rehabilitation, redemption, making of amends within the religion as an alternative to being expelled from the Church's religious order.
So it's a punishment, in fact?
Absolutely not. The Rehabilitation Project Force is one of the oldest religious traditions. It's almost as...
Correspondence with Four Corners, you described it as a private religious retreat.
That's correct.
Tommy Davis says that the RPF is a private religious retreat.
A private religious retreat? He's got to be hallucinating. Ask him what drugs he's taking.
Oh, you got hiccups, huh?
After Mark Headley was threatened with being sent to the RPF, he fled Hemet on a motorbike. His wife Claire followed soon after.
Kaylee, look at Mommy.
But many of those, like the Headleys who've left the Sea Org, report being pursued and spied on afterwards.
I'm driving down Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, and I noticed Ford F-150 that was following alongside me.
When we filmed with Mark Headley in Los Angeles late one night, we were tailed by a car.
left in 2005, and I've had a good 4 years of experience in being followed by private investigators sent by Scientology. So it's a bit odd. I mean, I'm driving my kids to school, and I have a private investigator following me. I've had private investigators show up at my place of business. I've had private investigators camped outside my house day and night. My garbage has been dug through.
Half an hour later, back at our West Hollywood hotel, there was a familiar vehicle parked outside.
We're going to see if it is the same vehicle and the same license plate. And I will tell you that, yes, it is. 8U2-9097. There's a gentleman who is sitting down now.
Let's go. Come on,
laying down. That was a private investigator who's been following us all night long.
Is it possible that a church attorney hired a private detective to follow Four Corners and Mark Headley while we were filming? Is that possible?
I couldn't comment on that. I couldn't comment. I mean, I couldn't be able to. I wouldn't know how to answer that. I have no knowledge on it, so I don't know how to answer it.
This week, Australia's Senate is expected to vote on whether to launch an inquiry into the alleged abuses against Australians that have taken place within Scientology's organisation. Around the world, the Church faces challenges in the courts, in parliaments, and from charitable authorities unconvinced that it was established for the public benefit. Liz and James Anderson, along with other ex-Scientologists, are considering pursuing a class action aimed at getting their money back. Their own claim totals around $650,000. Last year, Liz and James Anderson finally lost patience with the church. Fiona had gone for good, and they were determined that Jordan should not disappear as well. They learned that Jordan, who was unhappy in the Sea Org and wanted to leave, was to be sent out of the country to Florida the very next day. How did you react?
I said, there's no fucking way that's going to happen. How the fuck does that work? And I was pissed off. And I wasn't going to pull any punches on it. I said, there's no way that this is going to happen.
After giving a deadline to the church to allow their daughter to leave, Liz Anderson drove to Sydney and sat outside in her car for 4 days, waiting for Jordan to emerge. Jordan says she was interrogated throughout that period, undergoing repeated security checks.
They would interrogate me for over 12 hours in session, self-checking me, trying to find my indiscretions against the church.
Finally, she was shown the door, emerging into her mother's arms at 10 minutes to midnight. It's a moment Liz Anderson will never forget.
I just couldn't believe it, that I had the girl. And it was a moment of, oh my God, we're free.
You can see extended interviews with key participants in tonight's program online. Just go to abc.net.au/4corners.